cite as some of your musical influences?
I get a lot of guitar tapping techniques from Dave Knudsen from Minus the Bear. I've listened to a lot of Godspeed You Black Emperor, Zeros, Explosions in the Sky, stuff like that.
It's almost over, it's just begun. Don't overthink this, look in my eye. Don't be scared, don't be shy, come on in, the water's...
Neat Nation, welcome back to the Droopy Whiskey Show.
Everyone, what is going on? It is Brian.
Neat Nation.
Everyone, what is going on? It is Brian. We are back.
Neat Nation, welcome back.
Everyone, what is going on? It is Brian.
Neat Nation. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the live stream where we're talking about a topic very near and dear to our hearts. And I got to say, even as somebody who's a Four Roses junkie fanboy, I'm an amateur compared to you, Brian. So I'm stoked to just watch you riff. I'm just going to set you up this whole night and just watch you go. It's going to be awesome.
Wait, what?
How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
What's happening? I'm okay, honestly. Like, I got this happy lamp here that I tried to set it up as one of my lights. Because man, like I have got the winter downers, something awful. So I don't like winter in general, but this has been a rough winter. Last couple months, since we got back from Texas in particular. But Thursday nights are a highlight for me. I get to talk about whiskey, get to drink whiskey, and hang with Nation, chat with you, Brian. So I am excited right now. I was listening to a band. What's that band called? It's a cover band. It's a hardcore or / emo. It's like hardcore emo cover band. One Last Day, I think is what it's called, or Our Last Day. And they take, generally popular songs and then do a hardcore cover of it, and it really just resonates with me. It tickles my heartstrings. So that's what I've been into this week. That's what's given me some fuel. How about you? How do you do during the winter, Brian? What's your general vibe?
I don't know. I'd have to think back about like years past. This year I've been totally fine. I was like fine going into the year, into the end of the year, and then came into 2022 just ready to go. And so I feel like I have been just hitting on all cylinders. So I've just had a lot of energy so far that got through January. And
that's good.
Just crushing, trying to.
That's good. I started taking some vitamin D supplements. Thought maybe that might help. I didn't drink the first 3 days of this week, and I'm taking more days off. I would say no days off, but that's just not good. So I'm trying to drink less right now. Went to the gym. I worked out 3 days this week, so I'm trying to just infuse.
First, I thought you were going to say you worked out 3 days this year. I was like, dang, man, that's awesome.
3 days this week.
I'm happy for you.
I can send you my routine if you're looking to get the Drew.
Yeah, we used to be signed up for Beachbody, and we could do those workouts at home. And we did 10 round. It's a boxing thing. We were doing that for a bit, and we were just talking earlier today whether or not we should sign back up for that. Or Nation, if you guys have any exercise programs at home, I'd be curious to check some out. We just don't. I feel like if we were to get out to the gym, we wouldn't. I'd be like, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to Krispy Kreme's open. I bring donuts to the kids.
Right. Stop at the liquor store on the way. I mean, the liquor store is an excuse to go to the gym. You're like, I have to go to the gym. I have to. So I might as well stop at the liquor store on the way. Do what you got to do. But yeah, so between drinking less and buying no whiskey for a while, it's been, maybe that's why I'm depressed. maybe that could be the source of the downers. But I don't tend to. I get this way in the winter, and I bounce back pretty hard in the summer. So maybe the vitamin D will help. Maybe the happy lamp will help. We're gonna get through it.
What is a happy lamp?
Nothing. It's, well, let me get it. It's right here.
Should I Google it? Happy lamp.
Yeah,
I'll say some hellos to people here in a second too.
My wife bought it for me. It says a light therapy lamp. It's basically meant to trick you that the sun's out. Remember, I'm in Milwaukee. Those of you who are
is
like,
it really
the
just
problem?
called a happy lamp?
No, it's called a light therapy lamp. So Google light. I just called it a happy lamp.
Up light therapy lamp. I'm messaging this to Kristen.
Yeah,
she might be down with this.
It's bright as crap, though. It kind of feels like you're staring in the sun. You're not supposed to look directly at it. But if I like turned it on and put it right here, I'll show you. I mean, we're off topic already, but we'll get there. We got plenty of time.
All right, let me go through the list. I want to say hi to some people. Tom, at the top of the page, in the chat. What's up? Hank Williams Jr. Welcome to the chat. Brian, in the chat. Old Man Bourbon, you're in the chat. What's up? Michael Hall, what's up, man?
Oh,
ooh, that is bright. That is
it's
very
powerful.
bright.
So yeah,
it's very bright.
It's
Tim,
astonishing.
What's up, man? Oh, Michael Hall's got some 2015 Four Roses. Dude, I didn't even know you had 2015 Four Roses small batch. What the heck kind of conversations are we having that we're not talking about that?
The LE or just like a small batch from
the
that?
LE, the small batch LE. Wow. 2015. I'm looking for 12 right now. That's I want to try and acquire a 12. I don't have. I was talking. I got a roses group that I'm in, and one of the guys on there suggested that I do a blind of all of the LEs, or at least from like a certain year on up. And I'm like, I mean, I don't have all the LEs. And then a couple people were jumping in saying, well, I can help with a sample of this. I can help with a sample of this one.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fun. There's a bunch of the years I've not done. And I have some rankings. You know, I've got a couple of past videos that I've done with a little bit of rankings, but I'd like to bust it all out and do some more.
You should
keep going down this list.
Well, I've got
here.
the 26. I've got the 2016. So
yeah, I still have.
Off. So that's that. That's what I was talking about.
Good evening.
Yeah, OCD's been regular the last few weeks, so stoked to have him in the hoose. Jojo,
what's up, man?
Jojo commented in here asking about Stone Creek in Chicago. Unfortunately, that closed last year. So there is a coffee shop in that location now. I forget what it's called, but good people. The guy who actually started Ipsento back in the Dizzle. So still worth going to that spot there on Belmont for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good coffee in Chicago. Well, I guess there's a lot of places that are supposed to have good coffee. I'll put it that way. But Ipsento is no longer good. So La Colombe, I'm also not a fan of. Intelligentsia is not as good as it was. I mean, Ipsento changed ownership. The dude who started it, Tim.
Yeah, but have you been to 606 to have those donuts, man? I
have. I've been to 606 multiple times, but I don't recall ever having donuts. They are, it's kind of ridiculous. This is not a coffee podcast, but they have like 2 Slayers and a mod bar, and they're not that busy. Every time I've been in there at peak times, it's just like slow AF. And I'm gonna get
down this list of people, and I'm gonna come back to this topic. Andrew Beck, what's up, man? Richie, good to see you here. Jojo, what's up? Michael Peterson, what's up, man? Trey P, Four Roses Toasted Ellie. Hey, let's pin it for something we'll talk about here later on. That'd be kind of cool, I guess. I mean, if you're into the toasted stuff. Logan, what's up? John Seppi, what's up? Liberty Not Licensed. Dude, what's up? Will Barrett, what is up? Hey, by the way, so when we first started talking about this, so if anyone doesn't know, I used to do a coffee podcast called I Brew My Own Coffee. I haven't done it in about 5 years, but it was at the time a really popular coffee podcast, and there's been a whole lot more since then. And when Drew first reached out to me about doing content together, I was like, hey, why don't we just do the whole kit and caboodle? Why don't we do the bourbon thing? But why don't you also join me for the coffee thing, since we literally work in coffee? And he was like, I don't think I like you that much. That's not actually what I said. I think he said that
No.
because he's
I said
affiliated with Stone
maybe.
Creek,
I said
it has to have a Stone Creek lean. I think you're right.
That is
You
not
did.
what
I
I
think you did
said.
say, let's see how this
I didn't
goes.
say that. I didn't say that at all. Yeah, I said let's see how it goes because
If you
I
like
said
coffee,
I was open
and you
to
want,
it. But
if
what
you
I
want
said
Drew
was
to join me
we work
and
in
restart.
coffee, and this is fun because it's not work. But I mean, also it might infuse some energy in the coffee. It it might infuse some coffee energy because it's been a long time since I did anything
you
in
want
coffee
Drew,
just for fun.
So I Brew My Own Coffee was a very consumer focused show. Brew methods. We did talk with coffee professionals because we were from coffee professionals and but I felt like we broke it down a little bit more digestible way and not super nerdy sort of way. If you want the Drew P whiskey approach to bourbon in coffee on a podcast with me, let me know and say, Drew, do the I Brew My Own Coffee podcast with Brian again. That's all you gotta say. Anyway, what are you?
We're gonna have to quit our jobs. What am I? Thank you for bringing us back in together. We got 64 people in the chat. What up, peeps?
John Seppi wants to bring I Brew My Own Coffee back. John Seppi says to do it, dude.
Ibmock. Okay. All right. Well, we'll do it. Just that easy. I have had a couple sips, very small sips to get started.
Jojo wants us to do it.
I started with a small sip of Boone County 8-year wheat
whiskey, not licensed ones,
single barrel. That was very good. And then I had a tiny little pour of Russell's Reserve single barrel, and now I have moved on to Middle West, our Middle West pick, which the confirmation sample came. The shipping arrangements have been made, and so within 2 weeks, this should be available to Naish.
Oh my gosh,
I'm thrilled about that. Yeah.
Well,
and it's like
again, I mean, we have to. I mean, not to assume that people on the stream aren't in the Patreon, but as we've mentioned before, we have to reiterate it again. This is a promise. It's not a push to join the Patreon. I don't like being that kind of guy. However, this is one of those barrels that we assume based on the count of Patreon members and the people who went on the pick and on Cam's people, if everyone ended up grabbing a bottle, we would have exactly enough for all of those people to get one. So if anyone gets more than one, i.e. me or Drew or Joel or Tom, then it's Cam. It will be difficult to acquire outside of the Patreon.
So here's how it's going to work. This release is it will be available to our top tiers, everybody above the $3 tier, so 8 and above. It'll be available to that squad for 1 day. Then it will be available to Cameron's squad for 1 day. And then it will his above one. He's got he's just $5 and $10 right now, or does he still have $1? Anyway, his top tiers for 1 day. And then the $3 tier will get it if there's any left at that point. So just to be clear, because somebody will just ask, what are the tiers? Well, the $3 tier generally gets access to barrel picks, but we do put on there that, hey, that may not always be the case. $3 is welcome. And after 3 months, I'm going to send you some stickers and you get access to the picks and anything we throw on Patreon. $8 is, hey, you're going to get 2 glasses over the course of the first year. You're also going to get some stickers. And then you get preference over the $3 tier for barrel picks. There's a $15 tier, which then gets you t-shirts. So you get glasses and t-shirts. So 2 t-shirts, 2 glasses over the first year with stickers, and you're pretty high up there for barrel picks. And then tiers above that will get you well, you can pick. Actually, there's a couple people coming up here on a year of higher tier support, and they'll actually get to pick a live stream topic, and certain people will get to jump in for a live stream because they've quite frankly earned it by their contribution. So that's what the Patreon tiers are like. Patreon.com/entryproofpodcast. Enough self-promotion. I'm drinking this because it's delicious, but for you Patreon supporters, get ready. I will give you some notice before it drops so you can be ready that day. Okay, it's go time. What are you drinking, Brian? I'm going to get into Four Roses. Let me be clear. I've been doing small pours.
So Eric Sawyer, unrelated. I can't actually figure out where. Hold on. I can't exactly figure out where this was related to. I just see his comment of, did you put it in rice? And it made me remember. Thank you to none of you who have commented so far asking if my computer's okay. It is. Miraculously, though, all the keys worked. The next day, some of them still didn't, and I was still freaking out. I was going to go to Apple, and then I ran out of time. And I had to drive to Indianapolis for whatever, and then like I kept doing like these things upside down and some rice. And my buddy's like, "If you do it in rice, you're going like all my Apple tech guys are going to hate you." I dumped the rice out. I wiped it all down, like doing all those things. And now, presently, all the keys work.
Okay,
So,
good. So
miracle.
it just happened.
Thanks, Blanton's, for ruining the live stream last night or last week and making me super depressed. So I guess I was depressed last week. Anyway, right now I am drinking this Oak Spire from New Belgium, which is a bourbon barrel ale in Four Roses bourbon barrels.
Nice.
So
that sounds good. Sounds delicious.
Eric, I'm so sorry. I couldn't. It was you specifically asking about the computer. I was trying to figure out where it is because the last comment I saw in there was something like, somewhere in there. The thing about the coffee and anyway, yes. Thank you. For some reason, I'm reading comments all wrong. My computer. Thank you. Still Eric, broken. For being the only one to care. I can always trust you. So yeah, I'm drinking the Oak Spire, and then I actually. Eric, thank you so much. I am trying tonight. I figure I could talk about them while we're on it. I've got 2 different Four Roses samples that Eric sent me. And so along with the Oak Spire, I'm drinking a little OESO tonight.
Sick. I think I have that one. I might pop that one. Oh, it's the Jeff's?
Jeff's. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll pop. Let's taste it together in a minute. So put that one aside, and we'll we'll taste it together. I'll do a bottle pop. We'll do some ASMR. I'll be sick. All right, bottle pickups. I'm on the. I'm taking a break. Although Kyle was texting us about the Nassif's Family Reserve, which is still around here, and so like that's on the top of my list to just go grab. I think it's 37 here locally. So as soon as I'm off my buying break, which is going to be a while, but that's going to be on top. It's still fun. Right now, it's been fun to think about what bottles I want to like just get to and open that I have, without buying more. So just living in that world right now. Although I did get this. So this was sent to me. I did not pay for this confirmation sample, but it's always nice when confirmation samples are full bottles. That feels great. It's just, it's
good. So funny because I know you've talked to a couple of picks about that. And you're like, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for the confirmation sample. And I was like, do we do that in bourbon? Because I've literally never heard of that before, but I want to start doing that now because I'd love to get another free bottle. So
yeah, well, it's nice. So like with Dancing Goat, we've got stuff aging, and when they dumped the Spaniard, it was supposed to go to Total Wine originally, and then like it's available, and you did get a full bottle of the Spaniard to be fair.
I certainly did.
And then
sorry, Liberty Not Licensed saying that I was pitchy and more clippy than normal. Does this help at all? Is this better or worse or no different?
It's deeper. I actually I was watching one of our live streams back and I noticed my audio was not as rich sounding as yours. So I moved my mic closer, even though this is a hideous microphone. This color is obnoxious. They make this microphone in matte black, which would be better. But anyway, Liberty Not Licensed says you do sound better. So
thanks.
All right.
Thanks for letting me know, man.
What did you pick up? You posted today, actually, that you picked something up.
Yeah, I just got another
Insta stories.
This is not it, but I'll show one anyway for it. I got another one of these Elijah Craig barrel picks from Liquor Barn here in town. And
nice.
These things to me, again, Fred had sent us some samples and I was super, I'm going to repeat myself. And I was like, dang, this stuff's way better than I assumed it was going to be. And then we've had a couple of picks drop, so I've decided to pick some of them up. And I'm just like, dude, this is the new thing to go after. And so until I start getting some duds that make me be like, okay, maybe I need to pause.
Yeah,
just been really fire. This one that I have open here, it's an 11-year, the one that you and I picked. You and I picked up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not lying. I think that tastes like William Heaven Hill. It's just silky and oaky, and it's really good. It's really
honestly
good.
I forgot I have that. I put it down in my more bunker area.
The bunker area.
Yeah. So I just poured a little bit of this first one I got, which was kind of hella nutty. I mean, the nose is nice. Nose is very sweet, but then you get some of that like old Ezra kick. And that's big old Ezra vibe. Slightly older, like slightly richer than old Ezra, but it's all right. It's fine. It's just not wonderful like the other ones I've tried. The other one I have open, and then the one that we got that Michael gave us the sample to try. Delicious for sure. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you guys have a shot at getting a Elijah Craig barrel proof, generally they have been quite good, and I would recommend you do that. You get one.
Yup.
All right, guys, we didn't give a shout out to Nation in terms of what are you drinking. So hit us up in the chat real quick. Tell us what.
Yeah, let us know what you're drinking.
I want to know that, and then I'm gonna set this aside. I actually want to acclimate with this other Four Roses pick. Hold on, I gotta do the old Drew P dump back here. I haven't drunk in 3 days, which is unusual for me. But now I'm just like, I don't want to taste that and taste that and taste that. So I'm gonna have to be careful. I'm a starving dog. All right. Okay, I'm going to acclimate with this Four Roses. This is an OBSV pick from Discount Liquor here locally. This is a 9-year, 5-month pick that I've really been enjoying. I'm just going to get the palate into Four Roses mode, and then we'll do that Jeff's bottle pop here in a second. But let's start getting into this topic after we shout out a few what are we drinkings. Porkins just drinking off the shelf Four Roses single barrel, which I love. OCD's tried Old Carter. Which Old Carter? Which one are we talking? OCD.
Nice.
What do we got there? Will Barrett coming in with the heavy hitter, Disco 4. Ryan VH, regular Four Roses single barrel. Looks like we're rocking the theme tonight. Brandon Stevens, Lucky 7 single barrel 14. That's the Total Wine brand, is it not? I think that's Total Wine Source Barton, basically, which I considered buying at some point. It's probably good. I'm sure it is. 132 proof. That's a hitter. Jordan got the Calumet 15. Liberty Not Licensed is keeping it tight tonight. Too many meds. Sorry, man. Joe Carter 4. I wonder if Joe Carter is related to the other Carters. Probably not. First Four Roses I actually like. Ohio Private Select 10-year OBSK. Nice. Matt Kitchen, Henry McKenna 10. Peyton Smith, Four Roses single barrel regular. OCD said he's drinking Old Carter Bourbon DC-1. Is that batch one? I don't know what DC-1 is, but
were they doing the very small batches in different places, right? So this must be the DC very small batch.
Got it. That makes sense.
Because they did Kentucky ones too.
All right. Sweet. Well, Brian, let's get started on this topic, and let me just throw the question to you, generally speaking. I'll let you riff on this for a second. But if I'm a bourbon virgin, or let's say I like bourbon, but I'm not a Four Roses fan person, like I am, and I were to just ask you, who is a Four Roses fan person, maybe obsessively so, what's the deal with Four Roses? What do you say?
Oh, gosh. And
remember, you're talking to a Roses virgin first, so you don't want to overwhelm them. So we'll start at a cursory level, and then we'll get under the surface.
I'd probably say that seemingly compared to like some of the big guys, people are probably more familiar with your Jim Beams, some Heaven Hill branded stuff. The Buffalo Trace, if they're new, but they're probably kind of familiar with some of these brands. Four Roses, a little bit smaller of an operation. And for all that we see presently, really, they just do bourbon. They don't do rye. They just do bourbon. They are one of the few I hear talk about. I'm sure there's more, but, I would probably ask the question, what are you all... Are you familiar with Rick Houses? Oh, yeah. I mean, you guess you can get pretty back history like that, man. Andrew Beck goes hard. I'm trying to keep it simple. Just because I do get really wordy, I'd probably start talking about warehousing and be like, kind of an interesting thing about Four Roses. They all have single story warehouses. So where a lot of these other rick houses go multiple floors up, and you go on the bourbon trail and they talk about it's all the temperature differential, and in the bottom it's cold all the time, and in the top it gets hot. A lot of different ins and outs to go all that bourbon. You don't get that with Four Roses the same
More
way.
or less, that's what they say.
And so it just has a more consistent profile with the stuff. This is where it gets hard, because the main shtick with Four Roses, right, is that they have 10 different recipes. But as long if you haven't been able to understand like what mash bills necessarily break down to, that right there, people could be like, what? What's the recipe? I didn't know we pay attention to recipes. I know that they have a recipe, but like, you telling me we pay attention to the recipes specifically? Because that's a pretty nerdy thing, right? That's not a everyday.
Yeah.
That's not a newbie thing or an everyday thing. To 74, 13, 12. What? Like, what? That's not even the right math. 72, 75, 13. Talking about stuff like that's, you got to be deep. You got to be
way up in there.
You got to be Andrew Beck for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
it's complicated. It's more like that's one thing.
Complicated. It's complicated, but not complicated.
Stop on for a minute. Well, I mean, if you're new to bourbon and you're trying to figure out what the difference is between Four Roses and these other places, and they like the first thing they hit you with on the tour is 10 different recipes, and you're like, like, and you're just in full shutdown mode at that point, because you want to know like, well, why and what do they all taste like, and even the most experienced Four Roses tasters probably struggle to dial in on the profile of each individual recipe. Of course, they give you this handy little guide on these private selects, but how often is it like, it's not always accurate because there's so much variability and volatility from barrel to barrel. So yeah, it's complicated a little bit. Just their whole shtick is a little complicated. That said, maybe we should go through their core products briefly here, which we've done in a year ago. We went live in our first assemblage together, which actually I forgot about that. That was actually our first live stream together, where it kind of got shut down by a troll, which you and I get trolled all the time. I don't know what it is about our stuff, but there are a decent amount of people who don't like it. But we were talking about specifically a lot of Four Roses single barrels. We're tasting some LEs, but if you're a general consumer going into the store, you only see 3, maybe 4 products on the shelf, which quite frankly only scratch the surface of what Four Roses is doing. What are your thoughts on what used to be the yellow label, now is the beige label? First, did you like the change from yellow to beige, or would you go back to yellow? And what are your thoughts on the product generally?
I'm indifferent about it. I think beige looks fine. To me, and again, I don't even think this is really a basic bourbon drinker thing. Like, to me, it's 80 proof, right? To me, it's just too low, right? I think that's the bottom of what is able to be called, bourbon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's tricky, because I think the flavor profile, I don't even know what I'd put it in. An incredibly light cocktail. It's not even necessarily a good mixer because it's so low proof.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to be, that's not a proof junkie sort of thing to say. I think most people, even when they're started a bourbon, 90 proof is probably where I would put the bottom to that. And there's a lot of flavor that you get out of that. And the 80 proof to me is very thin. So aside from the flavor you actually get, it's just thin. So you can't even necessarily, to me, like really pull apart some of the flavor.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's definitely more herbaceous than any other Four Roses product. It tastes almost young, whereas even Jim Beam, standard like Jim Beam white label, doesn't really taste young. It just is harsh and not very good. Four Roses yellow / beige kind of does taste young. It's light. It's not very sweet. It's almost nutty. It's so herbaceous, more rye forward than some of the other Four Roses products, even though it's supposed to contain, I think, bits of each of the recipes. And yeah, I'm with you. Like at 80 proof, you're just asking the question why. And it's not great for cocktails, given the fact that it doesn't really hold up and it doesn't deliver a lot of the rich sweetness and oakiness that some of these other bottom shelf bourbons do. So this gets to another point of what's the deal with Four Roses. Their bottom shelf product, to me, kind of sucks. And it does a disservice to the I think the quality of their distillation and even their aging. It's a hot take, but in terms of bottom shelf products, I would never recommend Four Roses Yellow Label / beige. I hate the beige. My take on the beige is why. Like that yellow was at least iconic. Like there wasn't anything else on the shelf that kind of looked like that outside of maybe Stranahan's. But now the beige it just kind of blends in and is whatever. So any other thoughts on the 80 proofer before we move up?
I'm ready to move to small batch.
Okay. All right. So small batch. General
Not to rush us along. I just don't have much else to say about the yellow label.
Right. No, I hear you.
I agree with you. You know, it's hard to recommend. I mean, I guess you could put it in a flight against other 80 proofers. You know, you could do that. But you know, I know to be fair, I think some of the same things could probably be said about the small batch. The small batch improves a little bit. The age improves a little bit, but you're still talking about a 6 to 7 year product. It jumps up to 90 proof. So that helps a little bit. It is restricted to like fewer of the recipes that are in there. Let me actually double check what the recipes are. It's not bad. I mean, it's under $30 for a product. And this is like, I guess I would say
depends on your market actually. Yeah. I would say going up, unfortunately.
This is where it also gets a little tricky. So they actually, in the recipe, they have OBSK, OBSO, OBSK. Okay, so like the fruity profiles.
Yeah, the Ks and the Os. Yep.
And it's won a ton of stuff. If you're one who like follows medals and stuff, small batch has won a ton of things. I think this is where I would start if I'm going to start drinking Four Roses, and it can make really nice cocktails. You know, I just don't think a lot of people are going to go out there, like, at least I think in my market, it's probably, wait, did I just pull it up on Total Wine? You know, $27, $28. But even then, you know, you're talking about a bottle that's now higher than Early Times. It's more than the Old Forester Signature. So, like, at this point, I feel like you kind of have to be deciding you're going to get a bottle of this if you're going to, because there's so much else that you could be picking over it. If you're not specifically like, well, I need to try this product. And I think that's the biggest thing that's against it in this price range and stat range.
Yeah. So this one shows up, the small batch shows up in a lot of people's beginner bourbon videos. Like if you're new to bourbon, what bourbon should you try? Four Roses small batch shows up a lot. And it does not get close to making my list because I think it's overpriced for what it is. And because of the Four Roses aging process, I think their 6 to 7 year old-ish small batch product isn't delivering much depth and sweetness. It is better than the 80 proof, but it's not measurably better. Maybe just the proof points. Like it's a little bit more intense. It would actually be decent in cocktails because it has a more robust flavor profile, but it's not deep. Like, oh, this is well aged, this is sweet, I don't think it's fruity, like at least my last taste, which was a while ago, I will say that. But I was so turned off by it, I'm like, I'm not tempted to go back to the small batch. So I'm coming in hot here, but I'm doing it out of love.
Well, let me say this real quick too, because Mojo88 brings up a really good point, and we've talked about this before. I think in regards to Four Roses, and we've talked about it in regards to bourbon in general. Keep in mind, guys, last week we talked about Mash Bill 2 from Buffalo Trace. Mash Bill 2 is their high rye recipe, and it's what, like 12% rye instead of like 10% or something like that. You know what I mean? It goes up to like 18. It goes up to 16 instead of 12 or whatever. It's still really low. Four Roses. And again, we haven't talked about it because we don't need to get wordy until we get deeper into the podcast, okay? Or into the recording.
There, yeah.
However, I will say of the recipes they do have a low rye mash bill and a high rye. Their low rye mash bill is 20% rye. Their low rye. has
They're low res,
20%
a high
rye to
rye.
it.
Yeah. Yep.
Is a high rye for a majority of bourbon drinkers. And then their high rye is right in line with MGP. It's 35%.
Way high rye. Yeah.
So it's going to give you, even the recipes that have more sweetness, it's got a bit of bite to it. And so these products that we're talking about now, yellow label, small batch, even though they're 80 and 90 proof, they're 5 years and 6 to 7 years respectively. And so you're talking about very high rye content at a very young age. And I think it shows that it's a little bit rougher to drink.
I think that's a great way of articulating it. So from a beginner bourbon standpoint, like if you like a high rye spicy product, then the small batch is probably just fine for you. But what I love is the single barrel. So we'll just shift over to that.
Ooh,
which is
daddy.
It's sweet and it's fruity, even though it's the high rye mash bill. Like it's not delivering a big rye kick. It's delivering sweetness and fruitiness with a balanced spice, more baking spices, less of an herbaceous spice. And baking spices more in the allspice, less of the cinnamon, which cinnamon notes can be a little bit punchier. So that's how I fell in love with Four Roses. Is I was doing we were watching the Masters. A friend of mine was watching. He came over. We were watching the Masters. We were both fairly fresh into whiskey at the time, and so we lined up everything we had, which was 14 whiskeys, mostly bourbons and scotches. And so we just lined them up and tasted them all while we were watching the final round of the Masters. I think that was the year Sergio won. It was a while ago. And what stood out was Four Roses single barrel standard. So that was how I fell in love with Four Roses. So everything else I've had from the brand has been in comparison to the standard single barrel. And the small batch doesn't really get close to touching the glories of the $40, generally 8-ish year OBSV 100 proof single barrel.
My hope would be that in any of the markets, that you would find the single barrel would be very close in price. It's probably higher, but close in price to the regular small batch. But I think you're going to get a better product for it. Now, what's nice about this?
I would stake my reputation on that. I would stake my reputation on that.
It's a 100 proof, and I will say this. There's one thing I'll say about nearly every Four Roses product, except for Yellow Label. I've already said the opposite. Four Roses gives you a rich drinking experience. It is a very viscous pour, nearly every single bottle that you get. So now that we're going to the single barrel, it is proofed down. It's not barrel strength, but it is 100 proof. And even at 100 proof, Four Roses has a lot of viscosity to it. And what's nice about the single barrel, again, I've already mentioned earlier, there's single tier or single level warehousing. So yes, there might be some flavor differences between the bottom and the top, but it's less than any other distillery's rick houses. So the consistency is still pretty strong. So we can talk about tiers. We'll do that probably a little bit later on. But for what you're getting, you're going to have a lot more consistency in that single barrel from bottle to bottle. Look at that, man. Andrew Surfling says a big jump. Small batch is 30 and Sib is 50.
Wow.
35 and 45. Okay, well, depending on your market, we'll wait until we talk about small batch select. We'll talk about small batch select in a second, Michael. The single barrel the single barrel is a solid product. It is the number one thing that got me into roses, and it used to be my daily drinker because I was, at least here, I was always able to pick it up, and it gave me a consistent flavor.
If you were to condemn me, not that it would be condemnation, but condemn me to drinking only one bourbon, in the 50 or below range in perpetuity, it'd probably be Henry McKenna or Four Roses single barrel. So that's how much I love it for the value. And it does seem like the price volatility varies from market to market. To me, like down the road at the grocery store, I can go get single barrel for $40, which seems to be cheaper than most people. And so I'm comparing it to, again, like a $35 small batch. And I do think that it's $10, $15 better than the small batch. Like I'm not batting an eye because I don't even want the small batch. I'm not comparing anything to it. I'm just assessing the single barrel.
It's like the difference between a mixer and a drinker.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't want the small batch. I want the single barrel. So what's that single barrel worth to me? Probably up to $50, maybe a little bit higher, given its
Andrew
quality.
had
I think
asked a
it's that
question
good.
a little bit ago in the chat. Gun to head, only one readily available off the shelf Four Roses product for life. No store picks. What's it going to be? Is that single barrel for you?
It is over small batch select, which we're about to talk about. Even it's the single barrel. Yeah. What about you?
Man, I'm bummed. I'm bummed to see. I'm bummed to see this. To be honest with you guys, as a Four Roses guy, I don't think I'd go $50 on the single barrel. I
Really?
think at or like real close to $40. I'm in.
What's an
I
amazing
think
value at that?
I don't. I would have to think a little bit more about why I would say that. But I mean, okay, so let's take this.
Let's take it.
Would you take Four Roses over this Driftless Glen pick that we just got? That was $42.
Yeah. So again, that Driftless Glen pick is extraordinary. Like that is an well, number one, that's actually below MSRP. Like most people charge more than that for their Driftless cast strength picks. So I don't know why they had it that low, but that's an insane value. So it's like one's a really, really good value, one's an insane value. You're like, so they're both really, really good. That's a tough comp to make because you can't get this random Driftless pick that's extraordinary every day off the shelf. You can get Four Roses single barrel every day off the shelf. So give me another everyday comp. Like I don't think, like I said, Henry McKenna at 40 is the only other one where I'm like,
MW saying if you're $40 for where you're at for Four Roses single barrel select, are you still picking that over spending $8 more for rare breed?
Well, rare breed is also 40 here.
Okay, so what are you picking?
Both. I mean, they're different profiles. So when I want the rare breed profile, but I'll tell you, I don't own either one right now. The last one I owned, I took a Four Roses down to Texas. No, not Texas, on a golf trip. Last year's golf trip, took Four Roses single barrel, and then last bottle I had in my house was rare breed. So I'm feeling them both, and they're both ridiculous values. So that's another good comp. Although I will say the profile I tend to that matches Drew P more on the regular would be the Four Roses single barrel than the rare breed. Sawyer says, I would not go over 45 for the single barrel, not loving the bottle he has. Interesting. Is that the only one you've had, Eric? Eric / Loveface. Classic. All right, let's go to small batch select.
Let's do it. Hey, this is a nice hot take. I like this one though. So MW had asked a question about the Four Roses single barrel versus the rare breed, but then he also came in and said that the Four Roses single barrel is not viscous, that it couldn't be at 100 proof. I would like to talk about that a little bit though. It's a good point because
where did he say that?
It's
like
just up a little bit.
There? Oh,
he just said the single barrel is not viscous, can't be at 100 proof. I'd just be curious what people's thoughts are. And I don't know if that's the reason I'm curious. There's not a right or wrong. I've had some Eagle Rares and Buffalo Traces that have been surprisingly more rich than I would have assumed at 90 proof. And I think maybe contextually that's where I'm placing the Four Roses too. But I don't know. I feel like I'd have to put it up, but maybe I'd have to taste it against other 100 proofs to really say. So I was making a generalization just about Four Roses in general, that I tend to find on average Four Roses having more richness as a brand in most of the products I try over other brands as a whole. So that might be a safer thing to say.
My experiences with Four Roses single barrels, of which I've had probably 5 of the standard ones, is I would describe it as a viscous product. I think I did that. During live streams, I say a lot. I don't do that when I just record, but now I'm very self-aware. Anyway, very viscous. I would describe it as that. And I think it's a misnomer, actually. I would disagree respectfully with MW that I don't think proof necessarily impacts viscosity. I'm sure it does, but it's not been my experience because I would have said, similar to Brian, I've had viscous products I popped the Rock Hill Farms, or not, the Hancocks last week. I said, this thing is crazy viscous. It's chewy. That's how I described it. it's slippery, it's oily, and I was vibing very hard on that. So that is a super low product. And here's another thing too, is like that the Russell's 2003, the 89.5 proof Russell's, like you're gonna tell me that's not viscous? Like, I mean, that's cat strength, but it's still hella low proof. Mojo says Remus 5 is good, 100 proof with viscosity. I agree.
Either
Finish
way,
on that's a little dry, but it's the on mouth feel quite nice, quite syrupy. I like that.
Either way, just to play off of that, which is really interesting too, because one thing I've noticed, and this is not to say that MW, I don't remember if I saw in here whether MW is or is not a Four Roses fan, because that's something we haven't talked about either. You said, like, what's the deal with Four Roses? And, you know, the point of this video was like, oh, why is everyone sleeping on them? The truth of the matter is, at least a lot of people I talk to do not like Four Roses. They have tried it and they just don't like it. And that's totally fine. One thing I wanted to point out, though, real quick, about the 100 proof thing, or to play off of that topic, you know, Andrew Beck brought up a really good point. A lot of their barrel strengths, you know, Four Roses is one of those that, unless it is one of the higher tiers where it gets up to like 120 proof, a lot of them are in the like 100 to 110s range. So even going to the 100 proof single barrel, they're not adding a whole lot of water in order to do so in a lot of those cases, especially if you see one on the front. They do break down information about the warehouse and their tier position. If you get ones that are a 1 or a 2 tier, even in the single barrel that comes in 100 proof, you know, some people have mentioned, oh, look, it's a tier 6. It's a 100 proofer, but it's a tier 6. It's going to be great because it was a tier 6. But like, well, they actually probably added more water to it than if it was a tier 1. Tier 1 is going to be closer to barrel strength than some of those others. But anyway, we could jump off that subject. We could talk about small batch select.
Yeah. Well, actually, what I'm going to do is I am actually going to have people tell us whether or not they like Four Roses. I'm building a little Google form here, and I'm about to send it out. Yeah. So, gotta get a link here. So I'm going to do this by link. Nation.
I'll Trey. That's
and
a tough
I want
one.
y'all to tell me. All right, so y'all click this link, open it in another window, and then we're gonna just take a quick poll of the 121 people in here and see generally, do you like Four Roses? And if you're like, well, I don't like the yellow label, but I like the other product, like just say yes. I would say yes, and I said I don't like the small batch or the yellow label that much. Now, while Nation fills out that. That didn't come through as a link. Can y'all click that? I'm in my problem is I'm not in YouTube. I'm in StreamYard. So confirm you can click that for me.
Small batch select. Small batch select.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Here we
go. All right. I'll let you take it away. Give us your thoughts on small batch select.
Well, so I will say, you know, part of my enjoyment of Four Roses is that, you know, I have some good memories from the brand. You know, they do have a thing they open every once in a while, this Mellow Moments Club. And part of the Mellow Moments Club, they would send you gifts and you get free tours when you go, which I've not used, but they do. And then they have events, you know, pre-COVID, they had a lot of events and they cater food. You get in a lottery system in order to go. Whenever they released products, you get the chance to buy bottles. And they treat people really well for a company that seems a lot smaller than Buffalo Trace, who also does that same sort of thing. But I still feel like Four Roses does it better. Now, when the small batch select released, I was able to take my dad to this event. And as we've talked about in other streams before, you know, I don't have the privilege of being able to take him places like that anymore. You just can't get out. And so Four Roses as a brand, and specifically this product, mean a lot to me. For those reasons, the small batch select is 104 proof, so it's not all that much higher than the single barrel. It's non-chill filtered. Now, why the other products aren't non-chill filtered, I don't exactly know, but either way, it's not. And we haven't really talked about it. Age range is still kind of young, and they've chosen some different recipes to use for this batch. Now, me personally, when I tasted this, to me, this is like the Stag Junior version to Stag of like this bottle is the junior version of the 2018 limited edition small batch to me. It's got a flavor profile that I feel like, and I did talk about this when I did a video of my top 10 available whiskeys video a couple weeks back. This is the one that I picked as being a little bit higher priced, but giving you the kind of flavor profile that is more akin to limited release bourbons that come out. My take.
Interesting. I was stoked to get the small batch select. It was not available initially in my market, and somebody was running bottles from Kentucky. So a friend of mine in a bourbon network got me one years ago when it first dropped. So I was one of the first people in Wisconsin to have it, well before I was making videos. And I thought it was good. I thought it was complex. I thought it was floral as all get out. Perfumey, mildly spicy, lots going on, but it wasn't as viscous. I thought it wasn't as viscous, even though it's NCF as the single barrel, and it was not as sweet either. Now it's been a while. It's been a while since I tried it, and I actually should do a video on it because they've got little shooters at the store down the road. I should have just picked one up tonight. But I didn't get it. So to me, I like it. If you were to say, Drew, is it worth the money? Is it worth trying at $50 to $60? Probably closer to 60. I would say, yeah. It's really interesting product. And if you like Four Roses, I would recommend it, especially if you like the floral elements of Four Roses, which is why I think you said, like, that's why it reminds you of an LE. Like it's a fairly refined palette that I think will appreciate the Four Roses small batch select. If you don't like a floral whiskey, I don't think you're going to like it. If you have to have a big sweet bourbon or classic bourbon, you're not going to like it. But if you're a fan of complexity and newness, a different flavor, then I think it may be right up your alley.
Now, I've seen this a couple times in the chat, and I will mention this. Several people, when I do ask why they don't like Four Roses, do mention a floral characteristic, which is interesting because when you talk about flavors, I just don't think of all the flavors you could pull out that a floral toned flavor would be something a lot of people could discern. However, people are able to discern it enough that they know they don't like it in Four Roses a lot of times.
Yeah, well, I think that there's also a very suggestive element in that the name is Four Roses, sure, so you're looking for like floral, and if you don't like it and it's called Four Roses and it's lighter, you might be like, it's floral. I don't like it, but it's kind of interesting for a non-experienced taster, as you said, to pull out something as floral. It's like, well, you can't pull out vanilla otherwise, but you can pull out floral now, which is it's more aromatic than anything
They're
else.
Actually good times, and it's actually rose oil infused bourbon. We have figured it out. We figured it out.
I don't know what you're talking about, but what happened? What did I? Okay.
I was just talking, I'm just digging into good times and like Bourbon Santa's like hunt for them and like infusing whiskey. It's a whole nother thing. It's a whole nother thing for a whole nother stream.
Okay, we talked about that last week. Maybe on the next stream, you just tell me all about it because I have not followed that at all. So to wrap this up on the small batch select, though, if you guys want to know what a floral whiskey tastes like, taste the small batch select. I think that's a great example. Get some honeysuckle in there. Maybe a suggestion of rose. Rose is a very pronounced smell, though, and I don't think I've ever really gotten an actual like rose note in a bourbon. But honeysuckle is one I do get on the regular. It's very sweet. Jasmine on the rare. I'll get some jasmine.
Christopher, you nailed it, man. The floral tone in Four Roses is like the Flintstone note in Dickel. Not the same note. It's just that you either like it or you don't. You're kind of on the board or you're not on the board. So here's hey Johnny. Yes, another good yeah. So here's what I was gonna say something that I completely forgot. You guys are hilarious. This chat's blowing up tonight, so I'm loving it. What I'm loving about this, and so let me get back to the point of What's up, Whiskey Wars? I want to get back to the point of this thing because I'm in a lot of roses circles, and so we talk about a lot of roses. And one of these guys even mentioned, a buddy of mine even messaged me this morning, and he was talking about some stuff, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to get some roses stuff, but you know what? I've come to find out, you roses guys don't let go of a lot of roses products." But that's what, people who drink roses, they love Four Roses. Now, part of me wonders if it's similar to any other affiliation with any other brand before they've gone like super, super big. Again, I would tell you a couple years ago, I could go into Liquor Barn and there would be 7 different picks on the shelf I could pick from, just sitting on the shelf. Those days are gone. They sell out immediately. But, we're hearing the same thing about Russell's. We're hearing the same thing about Wild Turkey. People who drink Wild Turkey are like, y'all go away. We were fine drinking our Wild Turkey when you weren't interested in it. And now you're taking off the shelves. And because of Ascot, man, we can't get it. And yada, 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 and you hear that kind of stuff. And maybe Four Roses people are just the same kind of way with Four Roses. And it's starting to pick up attention. Here's the thing I hate the most, which I guess is similar to Russell's in Wild Turkey in that regard. What I love about living in Louisville, we are close to a lot of releases for Four Roses. What I hate about Louisville is that we are close to a lot of releases of Four Roses, and flippers are out. And I tell you, it is, if you don't mind paying a little bit more, you can get any pick that ever releases in Louisville. You want to know why? Because not a single person who picks them up drinks them because they don't like Four Roses. They'll buy them, which sucks for me. I didn't make it in time. I didn't get a chance to buy it. I hate it, but I understand it happens. However, conveniently, I know someone will sell it because no one's going to be stuck drinking it because they don't like it. So it makes it kind of nice. Yeah. But it is also
crazy. It's awful. Let's check in on the poll here. So we've got 40 responses. Naish, thanks for jumping into that. And it's ebbing and flowing a little bit, but generally we're seeing roughly 75 people say, yes, I do like Four Roses, whereas 25 will say, no, I don't. The exact numbers as of this moment are 77.5 say yes, they do, and 22.5 say no, they do not.
So I said I was going to go to this topic, and I didn't. On this note, you mentioned, because I started talking about roses drinkers. One of the things that I find interesting about, I feel like it is true. You and I have talked about this because I've done some roses videos because I like it. I've even talked to you about changing my content only to Four Roses videos because I think there's enough to be said, and there's not a lot of people who cover it. And
just call your channel Tier 5 or
Tier 5, Tier 7. Right. Maybe I'll start a blog just called Tier 7, and it's just all about Four Roses picks and like a catalog of all of them that I've tried. It's interesting because for as little content is out there, it's the number one requested thing that I hear on the channel of videos. People saying, I want more Four Roses content. Not again. I promise it's not necessarily do another plug, but to the point where last week on the stream, we were talking a little bit more about whether I should do more content. And we've had enough people say that they want more. And again, I have access. You can see a bunch of barrel picks back here. I've decided, Nation, I'm going to do a monthly video. I do videos every week, but I'm going to at least do a monthly different Four Roses pick to review. Now, for those who subscribe on Patreon, I forget what level it is. I made a post about it, though, but there's a specific abandon all the bourbons other than roses. That's right. I forget what level, but at a certain level, what's going to happen is after these videos are done, anyone who's in that level and above, I'm just going to put you all in a randomizer. And 5 people, every time I get into a bottle, I'm going to send out a sample to. Okay? You don't have to do anything for it, so it's not against any rules. You don't have to submit anything. But, I mean, it is part about being happening on Patreon. So it's just happening. So I'm going to message you, and if you're like, I'm sorry, sir, I would like to not drink your Four Roses, then I will pass it on to the next person down the line. But that's a new thing that I'm going to start. And as we were talking about this tonight, Drew, here's another thing I thought about doing. Maybe for even one of the other tiers, I'm going to talk about this out loud, so maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe we should have done this off cam. But like we could also, for a higher tier, send out, like, pick a couple of bottles. Maybe I show some pictures of a couple of bottles, and we vote on which ones we want to open. Mail samples out to a couple of the dudes. We do another randomizer for some people that we send these out to, and do a live stream, all taste together. You, me, and like 5 people all taste together. So I think Porkins, who mentioned this, someone in here mentioned that earlier. But either way, there's definitely some action that's going to be happening on the Patreon that is specific to getting samples of that. But I will start doing a monthly roses video. If you still want more roses content,
that'll be fun.
Message in the chat and say 7th tier. I need 7th tier. Give me 7th tier.
That would be fun. So yeah, I mean, Four Roses, I think, before we get into the single barrel picks, it's kind of a hipster brand. And by that, like, if you think it's cool, it's the coolest thing. Like, it's a lot of fun because of the amount and variation within these single barrel picks. Like, the people who are Four Roses people don't just generally go and get small batch. You know, like, we're trying to get every pick we can because each one is so different. To that end, let's do a little bottle pop here and do a little tasting before we move on, because we're about to go down the rabbit hole. If you guys have stayed with us through this first hour, it's been fun, and we've done a cursory summary of the Four Roses brand. It's about to get real. It's about to get real. So Sawyer, hashtag Swing Nation, he sent you a couple samples of some single barrel picks from Wisconsin, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I was Johnny. Johnny said he's still waiting for Nathan's Bourbon Club sample swaps. Nathan's Bourbon Club is a fantastic idea. We got to talk through the logistics of making this happen.
Yeah, the logistics on that are a nightmare, and so I'm not necessarily into the idea. But if anybody else wants to kick it off, we just
highlight Andrew's comment real quick, because this is the real deal right here. The only picks you buy 2 of, regardless of whether you taste them. Always true. Here's what I started doing, man. I mean, again, I've got, Nathan's Bourbon Club, the low key for the initial members of Nathan's Bourbon Club know, you know, I'm getting Four Roses stuff all the time. And I'm just like, do you need a pick? Do you need a pick? So yeah. I'm trying to spread the love with some of these picks to some of these, to Drew and Kyle and some of these guys.
All right. So, here we go for a bottle pop, and then we're going to taste this one together. This is
all right
from Jeff's Spirits on Main, 10 years, 9 months. Shout out to Matt Pletz, who helped Eric and I procure these. This is OESO, which is a very rare, I mean, as far as these go, an O is pretty rare. Here we hold on.
Yeah, so let me talk about Four Roses.
You gotta be quiet.
Recipes.
You got to be quiet when we do the bottle pop, okay? All right, then you can talk about it. Here we go.
Pretty good one.
Yeah, it was a good one.
The sensualness could have been left behind, but that's fine. That's good.
It won't ever be left behind. But go ahead and talk about the recipes now.
Yeah. So again, you know, we saved it in the first part of it. We'll talk about it now. We did mention there are 2 different rye percentages, right? There's 20% rye. We call those mash bill E. Okay, it's 75 corn, 20% rye, 5% malted barley. Mash bill E. E in the recipe name of 4 letters means low rye. Mash bill B, 60% corn, 35% rye, 5% malted barley. That's B. So when you see someone, they're all going to have O as the first letter. O for the first letter, I actually forget what it means. I think it means original mash or original warehouse or something. It means original something.
Never changes. It's always there.
The O never changes. Then you see the next letter is either an E or B. The E means low rye. The B means high rye. The third letter, S, I think it means standard. It also
straight.
Never changes.
It means straight bourbon.
Straight bourbon whiskey. Okay,
yeah.
Straight bourbon. The last letter is the only one that changes, and it will be one of 5 letters. If it is a V, the last letter always represents the yeast. So where everyone talks about their flavor comes from their yeast strain. Four Roses uses 5 different yeast strains. So they don't have rye recipes. They don't have necessarily like all these different, like a lot of different corn recipes with one yeast. They change their yeast and do the same bourbons. So the V yeast, as they call it, is more delicate fruit. The K has a little bit of spice. The O has very rich fruit. The Q is a little bit more floral, a little bit more herbal. Well, I'll say floral. In the F, they'll say is more herbal. So with the combination of high and low rye and the 5 yeast, they have 10 recipes. You have OESV, you have OBSV. So if OESV means light fruit, you have a slightly less spicy light fruit, and you have a spicier light fruit. So these all they have their breakdowns of what you notice generally in these. Jason, so rich fruit would mainly mean like it's instead of like a little touch of fruit, it's going to taste more like
juicy,
fuller, juicy berries for the most part.
Yeah.
So the recipe we are
there's like
trying
different. Is OESO, but light fruit I would be like citrus and
I'm gonna put this chat in here if you guys want to pull up
like
a second chat. Don't leave our stream, but these recipes are right in here that will talk about that if you open up in another one.
window,
So another window. So what this is saying, the recipe we're drinking tonight is OESO, and they will tell you that the OESO is is for a lot of people the creme de la creme, because it means it's got low rye in full fruit. So it's probably the most Buffalo Tracy kind of profile. It's rich fruit and vanilla. That's what it would be called. Rich fruit and vanilla is where an OBSO wouldn't necessarily have the vanillas. It would just be like rich fruit. So let's talk about this pour a little bit.
Yeah, on this tag it says, the tag you get with your bottle, it says red or fruity red berries.
Yeah, throw it in the chat if you're on Team E or Team B. Are you in the high spice? You in the low spice? Team B or Team E?
I'm equal opportunity. Anyway, let's talk about this.
I'm Team E all the way.
The nose on this was striking in its sweetness and in its fruitiness. So it is sweet and it's fruity. It's got some wood influence, not barrel char, not barbecue sauce, but toasty oak. I would call it that.
Now I'll also say, so Drew did talk about a pick he was drinking earlier that was like a 8-year, and they do have some 7 and 8 year picks, but for the most part, these picks are like, for the most part, these picks seem to be anywhere between 9 to 11 years old on average. Okay, 9 to 11 years old. And the price of these are usually somewhere around $80. So it's following about the $10 a year thing. They're cash strength. So that once you get into the barrel strength single barrels, I think they tend to like hit value wise for what you get pretty easily. And you get a lot of different profiles in here. I'm missing so many comments. I'm so sorry, guys.
Yeah, you gotta you gotta let it go. There's only so much you can get to.
Brian Mackey, I recently picked up the Liquor Barn OESO and it's delicious, but I have to admit I've liked some other recipes finishes more, but it's nose and palate amazing. Let me see if I don't think
let's focus. Let's bring it back, Brian. We are tasting
I got that one, but I've not opened it yet. Anyway.
All right. Tell me what you're smelling on the nose of this one we're drinking together.
So I actually feel like there's a decent bit of there's a strong balance between some of the vanilla, some of the fruit, and some of the leathery oak that's in there. And it's got some coffee notes to it too. This is actually something I noticed in this other OESO that I opened, and this one's kind of similar. It's got this, it's not super strong, but it's got this kind of darker, heavier note in there. It's not quite barrel char, but it's got a kind of.
So I'm in the strawberry frosting. I think that's where I'm landing.
Yeah,
strawberry frosting.
I have another one that's open. It has a little herbal touch to it. That this other one I have behind me, it's also an OESO, similar run
with mint.
Has
strawberry frosting with a mint sprig.
Strawberry frosting with a mint sprig. Huckleberry likes the OESK barrels. That's right, dude.
Yeah, good. It's a fun nose to just sit and sniff. Like I feel like. Yeah, I mean, I want to kind of.
Michael Evans wants me to do a pour like we did last time. I don't know if I could do that with the whole. I would end up pouring all the rest of the sample out. Should I do it anyway though? Should I long pour the rest of the sample?
No.
Okay.
No.
Anyway.
No.
Sorry, Michael. He stopped me.
We're getting carried away. Like I understand we're in euphoria right now as we dig into Four Roses, which you still owe me that bottle, by the way. Don't forget about that.
Yep. I don't forget about it.
I've not forgotten.
An elephant never forgets. I'm not an elephant, but I'm just telling you.
So yeah, the nose doesn't evolve much, but it seems like the more you sniff it, the easier it gets to sniff, and it's so sweet, fruity. Gosh, I need to find something else in here, but I'm just loving it. It's hard to describe, but delightful. I get cakey, strawberry shortcake. I mentioned strawberry frosting, but like an angel food cake. Nice. Those are fun. You know what? You should do a long pour of something, because that was I forgot what you were talking about. The zoom in one was amazing. That was the best.
What he's talking about. That's what he's talking about. Me doing.
Yeah, okay. All right. Have fun. I'll sit back. You know what? Hold on. I'm gonna actually drop out and make you big here.
Gosh, I think I'm gonna do a bad job of this. Zaddy. Is that okay?
Yeah, it was a little disturbing, but yeah.
Sorry. What did I do last time that made it funny? What did I?
You were just like,
oh,
hold on.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
I can't zoom in. I'd have to zoom in with the camera anyway. Your face made it. I won't even try and copy you because it was just delightful.
Sorry, but there's another pour. Oh, Andrew, no. We just lost like 45 people probably. Get the zoom ups with me. And
what I've learned is people like Four Roses. This is we've got a lot of people in the chat enjoying this. So let's get to the palate on this, because we still have to talk. We still have to go hard on single barrels here.
Yep.
Palate. It's like, so you can get these artisanal fruit syrups for your pancakes. And it's like, I'm getting like blueberry syrup on pancakes right now. Oh, it's good. I mean, it's so good. It's like, some of these picks, man, some of these Four Roses picks are Ellie worthy. It's Ellie stuff at $80. And gracious sakes.
See, I think this one's good. And I think it's a little bit better than the other one that I have open. But I have had some OESOs that have come off fruity in this. I don't get as much, like, I feel like when you say blueberries on like pancakes, I feel like I would expect more maple sweetness than what I'm getting out of here. It has some like a dark
blueberry. No, a blueberry syrup is different than maple. I didn't say maple. I never once said maple. I said blueberry syrup on pancakes.
I guess
I would agree. It's not very mapley.
I just assumed
there's not like a salted caramel note. The sweetness isn't in the brown sugar caramely stuff, which I would want more of, but it's hella fruity to me. I mean, you mentioned, and I'm coming off this OBSV, which is more oaky, and not as fruity. So this is
and I'm coming off of this Oak Spire, which is beery and not at all bourbony. So I'm trying. This is my acclamation pour too.
Yeah, this OBSV I was drinking is definitely more oaky, more caramel brown sugar, and good.
Terrence, cheers!
Spicy.
Yeah, these aged in ore glasses are pretty
sick.
Yeah. Sick.
Shout out Aged in Ore, who also neither Four Roses nor Aged in Ore sponsors the show. Either way,
so here's what I like about it. It's got that this bottle has some of that musty, oaky, kind of charry stuff in there that I feel like I notice in the Russell's 13. You get that at all? You get in that kind of like musty, funky, oaky, charry, like some of those notes, but still has some sweetness to it.
No, I'm not. I mean, it's clearly well aged. Like, it's almost 11 years old. Like, it's not lacking wood influence, but I don't get dominant wood tonality. Sawyer, what are your general thoughts on this? He says go back to the nose because he gets all herbal after hitting it on the palate. I don't. I mean,
yeah, that's what I was saying. So Eric, there's an herbal presence to this. It's like a licorice candy, or I have one. It's an OESF.
Than like a parsley or a mint, though.
No, but I definitely to me there's a note I've had in a couple of these Four Roses things that comes off as one of my buddies called it whorehound, and I was like, I think it's more licorice, but I'm not going to argue these herbal like
I don't know what whorehound is.
Come on,
whorehound. If somebody's dropping a whorehound flavor note, I'm like,
this guy says whorehound.
Anyway, my point is not
licorice candy.
I'm just saying that I think if you're dropping whorehound as a tasting note, that is just pretentious.
No,
it's a little
Four Roses
much.
did not do away with the leather. Oh, yes, they did. No, on the 100
this is brand new. Oh,
on the 100 proofs, they're just a band, like a black printed band now.
Got it. I mean, they're fake leather, so like I
think I freaked everybody out with the whorehound comment.
It's fine. Wouldn't be the first time.
Sorry, guys.
So generally, given your experience, which is much more vast than mine, I will own this, Brian. Your experience with Four Roses single barrels, what are you grading this relative to the others? Not relative to bourbon in general, because this is a great bourbon in general, but relative to all the other single barrel picks you've had, is it an A? Is it a B? Is it a C?
And
I also know you've tasted it multiple times.
Yeah, I would say this one is a B minus.
B minus. That's very harsh.
B minus.
I mean, I can't correct you because I would not grade it that low. I have had I probably tasted in my
I will get there.
career 12 to 15 different picks, Four Roses picks, and I would put it in my top three, probably top 3 or 4.
That's good. That's good though. Because it's not about the whiskey, it's about the journey. You know what I mean? And who you're on it with. And I'm on this journey with you. I just left you in Sacramento and I'm continuing on.
Great. Bottom line is these are fantastic and I love them. You don't love it as much, which is fine because you love others. So let's get into it. Let's get after it. Let's get amongst it, as they say, and talk about the Four Roses single barrel picks.
Do you have this OESF?
Maybe. Which one? I don't want to pop.
I don't know where it's from, but it's RS 79.5.
Where's that OESF from? I probably tried it actually because I tried a couple of the picks Eric had when I was at his house for his birthday. Eric, where's that from, dude? OESF.
Eric, you're right though. I get a lot of those rubber notes on the nose, specifically in the glasses. It's empty.
He'll chime in here in a minute. Maybe he will. Oh, almonds. I did not get the almonds pick, I don't think. Did I not? Hold on. I just knocked the sample jar over. I do not have the almonds pick. Yeah, no. Antioch, Woodman, Benny's, Steve's, Distillery.
Yes, it is, Chris. There's only been a couple of F runs that I've been really intrigued by. This run, the RS, I've got several bottles in this RS 79 run. They're interesting.
We can't go that deep yet. We got to preface it. We'll go that deep. Okay,
we can't go that deep.
We got to. Yeah, we're deep. Like we're in. We're the
deep.
We're in the esophagus.
Go that deep.
You're talking
it's
about
gotten so weird tonight. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not normally this weird. That's usually safe for my OnlyFans.
Oh gosh. What? You're talking about the small intestine of the beast. We are in the esophagus of the beast. Okay.
You just tell me the pace. I was just trying to get belly. I was just trying to keep it from
belly of
I was just trying to keep it from being stagnant, Drew, but it's fine. You keep knocking over sample bottles.
Happy to. Okay. Belly of the beast. Four Roses single barrel picks. All 10 recipes.
Yep.
So when you go to Four Roses to
sorry,
pick
Vortex.
A barrel,
I'm so sorry, Vortex. Terrence seems to like it. Vortex seems to hate it.
I'm gonna put you on mute, dude. We get a decent amount of samples. I've not been on a Four Roses pick, so this is why you're here, Brian. Keep it together. When you go on a Four Roses pick, what has been your experience in terms of the quantity of samples, and how do those quantities pertain to the 10 different recipes? You can talk.
Yeah, the picking experience of Four Roses was great. It's at the Cox's Creek Reserve, so this is on the way. This is it's outside of Jim Beam. I forget exact. Yeah,
it's the storage.
That's where the bottling facility and everything is. Their pick experience is great. The area where it is wonderful. The people who are involved, so Mandy Vance, and then previously Al was a part of that. Brent will come into those sometimes too. They have started to cover over the barrels so that you can't see the yield, or you can't see any of what's on it,
like recipe or age or anything.
Right.
So you do it purely by flavor.
And so they won't. A lot of times they will not say what it is that you're picking. You just do it all blind, which is great. But as opposed to like having 3 samples or something like that to choose from, at least when I went, there were 8 samples out there, which is awesome. And I think in some cases too, they'll probably have 10 picks as well. So
for the big guys, that's remarkable, because some of these other big picks you do, there's like 4 or 5. So if you're getting up to in the 8 to 10 range, that's pretty solid. I imagine you can pick a pretty killer barrel out of that group.
Yeah. Terrence, tell your wife that I said I'm sorry. If I could make her a pie, I would, as an apology for my actions. I don't think it would really hold up well to the mail, but
I missed it. Anyway, Four Roses does a decent amount of these picks a year. Like the fact that we in Wisconsin get 4 or 5, maybe even a little more than that across the state. That's not bad. So I've done okay. Like I've done well for myself.
And they're putting in a ton of Brian Mackey. We have not. We will talk about that in a second. They're ramping up production. They're putting a lot of money into the facility, and my hope is that soon it'll be even more. I think it's probably going down a little bit, but my hope is that it gets to be even higher.
Well, I mean, there is no shortage. So in Wisconsin, like we don't get that many barrel picks in general. A lot of Knob Creek, unfortunately, a lot of just regular dog crap redemption stuff. Not a lot of top tier stuff. Eagle Rares, Four Roses, Elijah Craig single barrels. Although now there's been 3 of them. I didn't get the one in my backyard because I'm on pause and I didn't even see it actually. Anyway, that happens. It happens. It's not a big deal. I was looking for something. I'll just honor this moment, I guess. I forgot what I was talking about now. Oh, so anyway, there's a decent amount. They get around. So just mainly buying in Wisconsin, I think I have 10, and 8 of them I think came from Wisconsin. So that's pretty cool. And only a couple of them did I have to have somebody mule for me.
Oh my
so
gosh.
That's awesome. Like you can kind of get them around here. You can't get them everywhere. I get that. But if you're generally aware and connected, you can procure them. If you live in Kentucky and you are in the know, I mean, Brian, why don't you talk to us a little bit about how often you procure Four Roses picks?
Sorry, real quick. I have to take a moment of silence for the nose on this OESF. Coming after the OESO, the nose on this OESF smells like dusty old Forester. It's
that's really interesting.
So good. This OESF. So again, OES are common. So this is also a low rye recipe, but instead of OESO, rich fruit and vanilla, this is OESF, which they would say are herbs and mint. But while I am saying that, to me the nose is not as heavy. It's more like butterscotch and oak. And man, that is good. There is a little bit of herbalness to it, but to me, it comes off sweeter, cleaner, oakier. I'm gonna go on the palate, and then I'm gonna go back to what you're talking about.
Sounds delightful.
It is 5 proof points, maybe 6 proof points higher. A little hot on the palate. Palate's not as good as the nose, but it's pretty solid. caramel, mint. You mainly get it in the back of your throat. It's like you don't get the front of your mouth mint like if you're chewing gum. You definitely get it as it's like going to the back of your palate, and it lingers a lot past the profile as well.
I'm just sitting here with this OESO, and I'm pretty happy with that.
Dude,
Like,
be happy with it. I'm happy with this. So go back and ask that question one more time, and then I'm gonna address the chat a little bit.
Let's talk about. I want you to share your experience procuring these single barrel picks in Kentucky.
Okay, so lately we've had a lot of stuff drop because here in Louisville we are close to both Lawrenceburg, the distillery, and Cox's Creek, the bottling facility, and so we've gone periods of time where months and months and months on end, neither of those released barrel selects, and lately we've had a lot of releases. Plus, it looks like a lot of the places that have done picks in town, I guess they were all scheduled around similar times, and so they're all being sent through distribution similar times. So we've got several, like a lot of these ones that are behind me are recent pickups. So we've got Gift Shop, Total Wine. This is a Bourbon Pursuit pick. We've got Liquor Barn. These aren't them. I did get in today. I didn't talk about this. This is the one that was in my videos of favorite single barrels from last year. I got another bottle of the Bevmo OESV. Okay. So this is one of my favorite. This is the bottle. This bottle right here is the reason why the 2021 Four Roses LE did not go into my top 10 allocated whiskeys of the year. It's because of how good this bottle was that I couldn't put that one on a list of allocated when this one was so good as being a single barrel.
I was going to pour a little bit of my 2020 before the end of the night. I'll probably do that, but
do it. So we have had a busy cadence so far, which means I imagine that we'll have another drought. How
many store picks? So there's the distillery, there's the aging site drops that happen, but how many store picks happen around there? I mentioned we might get 5. Let's say 5 a year on average.
A couple months ago, Westport Whiskey and Wine dropped one. So then I said, Total Wine dropped one, Liquor Barn dropped one. You do have both gift shops. They're just master distiller releases. So if you do include those, that's 5 locations. But there is an event coming up at the end of on St. Patrick's Day where Fraser Museum is the start of the Bourbon Trail here in downtown Louisville. They're going to have an event with Brent Elliott, and there's going to be a bottle release there. And then I know that Brian had said this in the chat, and I'll bring this up. There's actually 2 things. But so again, I mentioned earlier, if you've been hanging around during the chat in our live, I mentioned earlier that one of the things I liked about Four Roses is the Mellow Moments Club and some of these perks that happen in Mellow Moments Club. Well,
let's talk about that for a minute before you even talk about the perks. It's hard to get into. You don't have to do anything. You just have to time it right, which I've been trying
once
for
a month.
years.
It's very short.
And yeah, so does it open once a month? Because I'd never known. Like
it
anytime I checked, it wasn't.
It opens up on the 1st of every month, supposedly.
Got it. Okay, well that's good to know for Nation. I did not know that. I just got in when you're like, "Hey, sign up," and then I did.
So
and
if you just got, we got Drew in. If you just signed up, and then you probably got an email today. Now, what I love about the Mellow Moments Club, and they got some Mellow Moments merch in Lawrenceburg. That's cool. But they've been trying to figure out how they could do barrel selections for Mellow Moments Club. And today was the day. If you are in Mellow Moments Club, you are able to enter the lottery to go on a pick for one of 3 barrels that will release for the Mellow Moments Club and be available the day after the Fraser History Museum event at the gift shop, only for Mellow Moments members. So that's pretty sick.
So I need to plan a trip down there a month from now. That's what we're saying.
Yes, they'll release them at the gift shop. You can only get one of the 3. That's something that was interesting and talks about talking about how much of pull you used to be able to get. You used to be able to get 2 bottles at the gift shop. And so that was nice. If you went and got a pick, you could either have 2 or, I get one and I'm able to give one to a buddy who doesn't live around here. Now it stinks because if it's a pick of a run I like, it's harder to pass it off to somebody else. I want to hang on to it and I only get the one. So Yeah, Brian, it kind of stinked. I was able to get there for it, but
Michael, dude, you
Westport
gotta
is so
DM me
inconsistent.
about this stuff. No, I'm just kidding. Michael Evans says a couple picks, Eagle Rare and Woodman's and Total
Gosh, the
Wine had
nose.
Eagle Rare picks. I was completely
Sawyer the
unaware,
nose on this OESF,
which
is
is
so good.
fine because I have plenty of bourbon, so it's not a big deal. That said, I might have tried to get them, but I also did announce
Eric,
last Thursday I'm on the freeze, so we'll see.
This is one of the most recent roses I picked up. It was at the distillery last week. Eric, this is so where this is a 10-year, 2-month OESF from the RS warehouse, which means it's warehouse R on the south side. RS 79 tier 5. So this is RS 79 5M that I got a sample of that I'm drinking right now. This bottle from the distillery is RS 79 6M. So I think this is the barrel directly above Eric's barrel that that released last week.
That's pretty neat.
That's neat. That's neat.
Neat. All right. So there's all these different picks, and I want you to break down the code for us, Brian. As an enthusiast, we're getting into geekgasm territory here, because you can be like me, and you're like, you try and get everyone you can get. It's Wisconsin. I don't buy secondary, so I have 10, and I'm thrilled with that. Like, that's a lot of great whiskey. I have more than most, and I'm thrilled. But if you have access and you're a Four Roses geek, there's a rabbit hole you can go to. And Brian, I'd like you to tell us about your OSV run. But before you do that, I'd like you to introduce what's the whole, like, how do you identify a run and what makes a run potentially good? And like, tell us about the label. And by label,
this is insider baseball now.
Yes, it is. We're going hard. So show the people the label, the bottom label.
I've actually got a couple of really popular runs up here that we'll talk about. Okay. So here's, let me just,
I'm just going to listen and drink. So I'm with you guys now.
So let me preface with this. There is nothing wrong. You know, not everyone, a lot of people are collectors, and they're collectors for different reasons. So a lot of people want to go after Four Roses has 10 recipes. I'd like to collect them all. The thing about roses, which is great. Again, and everyone's got their own goals. The thing that's interesting is, like, as we've talked about single barrels in general, every barrel is going to be different from another barrel. And tiers are going to affect flavor. I feel like balance more than anything. Again, they're pretty consistent in their warehouses. I feel like balances and heat is affected more than others. But then we already talked about Four Roses single barrel age ranges go from 7 years to, I have one that's 16 years old. I've got the 20 year right down here. So I've got bottles that go from 7 years to 20 years old. And I would tell you that instead of, again, insider baseball, my particular opinion, I think I don't think that just because you have a bottle of a certain recipe that gives you enough indication of whether you like that recipe. Because a 7-year OBSV will taste different than a 13-year OBSV. And
on barrel to barrel, there's so much volatility.
And a bad OESV is going to taste way different than a good OBSV. And just because you have the bottle, that's what sucks about it, right? You don't really know. And so a lot of Four Roses, like experts, not me, a lot of other Four Roses people would say, spend some time trading some samples, go into bars that might have single barrels open, try and figure out what you like before, because I mean, let's face it. If you got every bottle at retail, and retail was $75, it's going to cost you $750 to collect all 10 recipes. You better sure as ass like every bottle that you have, because that's a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
And so to me, you could just, instead of going through all 10, you could easily say, I want 10 different years of the recipe I like the most. What I have learned is I've learned several recipes that I do like that fit my personal palate. And the Vortex right here, he's got a friend looking for OESO and OBSO for 3 years, hasn't been able to find one. And that could either be because he likes those recipes or to fill out, right?
He has he says he has the other 8.
So
trying to,
that's a little thing to talk about before this run. So there have been several runs of OESV. I'm a big
Michael.
OESV fan. And cheers, man. So I'm going to zoom in real quick. Cheers, Tommy. That's really good to hear. Yeah, hopefully it's informative. So this one right here, I'm going to tighten in on it. We'll look at this recipe. You see this right here? You want me to zoom in even tighter on this?
No, that's good. Let me drop out. Hold on.
Okay. So as we're reading the front of a bottle, you've got the proof here. Your warehouse again. So the warehouse, the first letter of the warehouse is going to be what warehouse is it? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever. And then it's a side. So it's going to be something N, something S, something W, something E. It's the side of the warehouse that it's on. You then go over to your you go over to your run. This is the run of Rick's, right? Then you have the tier level it's on, and then the barrel, right? So we do that, and then let's see if I can flip over to the side. Nope, wrong side. One of these is going to have it this side of here. A lot of times sometimes you'll have tater stickers. They stop doing that, but then you'll have it'll tell you when. Sometimes it'll tell you when it's bottled. It'll tell you the recipe. It'll tell you the age. Okay, that is all the information that you're looking for on here. So last year, it became pretty talked about that that this run PS58, a lot of these bottles were fire, and I have PS58s in tier 6. Anyone who catches our old stream, you probably heard me talking about picking some up. I've got like 25 bottles from this run. Some are duplicates of the ones I like. I'm not kidding, guys. I'm so sorry. And some of them are just single ones from the run. And they taste so good. Again, this one's so fire. Now, what's interesting about it is I don't want to be one of those guys that says tier 6 or bust. It's not always that way. However, in some of the runs, they don't exactly hit as they fall down the tiers. This MW that we tasted first, this is another one. This is MW 25. And these OESOs, they've had them from tier 6, 5, 4. This is a 3. And then this one that recently came out from Liquor Barn is tier 2. So, they've put out like 100 different barrels in this MW25 run. And some people will tell you that the higher tiers from that run are up here. And as my experience with this one, it was fine. I've not had any of the tier 6s from this run to know, like, are they better? I don't know. Now let me hold on real quick, guys. So I do going back to Drew's video where he talks about like how much you have and how much you spend. I do have a lot of bottles, that's for sure. But I will also say when it comes to quantity, most of my collection is Four Roses. So also keep that in mind. When I'm done counting Four Roses, I don't have a whole lot else that I'm counting.
I just want to add too, when I did my video, I said, this is my deal. Like, this is where I'm at. This is why you should consider a thought exercise. I didn't want to judge anybody because everybody comes from a different point.
Now I'm wondering if I actually do have 25 down there. I need to go back and
financial abilities, in their motives for collecting. Like, so again, it wasn't meant to be a judgment, but anyway.
Johnny wants to chew. Well, you know what, Johnny? I'm not going to give you the chew. I've specifically been very, very mindfully not chewing, and I'm never going to do it again.
Well, that would be a shame. I gotta say that.
I am never, ever, ever doing it again.
Man, you're on point tonight. You're just fire. Love you.
I'll probably do it again. I have 3 MW25 OESO. I don't know who Hollywood is, but I want to talk to you. I don't know what you're. I don't want to know what you're. Pierce, I'm so sorry. If this is the first time, I hope it's informational to you. I'm so sorry. It's been a little weird tonight. Let me go back up. I want to make sure I'm not.
I just want to welcome Pierce. Like, I actually want to say, hey, you're welcome. Because this content, it is fire. Like the educational elements. What's the deal with Four Roses? I don't know that anybody has ever gone harder on Four Roses in a video or stream. So this is now as weird.
That was not smart. The wisp sip is not right. Did not work.
Anyway, what I was saying was I feel like this is valuable stuff. And that's why we've partnered. That's why we do what we do. Thanks to Andrew for the super chat. Appreciate that, dude.
All right.
For the chew.
Fine.
It's a cheap chew, I gotta say. But you like taste it. I do it. Your chew is a little bit. I'm gonna drop you here. I'm gonna drop you for a second. Brian's chew is a little bit. It's a little shallow. Where mine is a little. It's longer because I'm like open it up. So that's it. You got a shallow chew. Sawyer's also throwing in super chats for the chew.
I got to pour more if I'm going to do more chew.
Are there any other runs? So, Brian, I mean, you said the OESVs. So, you said OESVs, that run you were big on.
And
OESOs, this MW OESO run.
You know, they've had some other good runs of OESVs too. There's, you know, people are kind of like, they watch barrels that get rolled out to picks and see what gets snatched up. You know, there's a couple of new runs getting thrown into the barrel selection program. Time will tell how they fare, but there are, that I've noticed, you know, 2 more tier 6 runs. One is OBSF, and that's another one that I have here is an older. So in 2019 there was a run of OBSFs. I'll go ahead and throw the bottle up for the specs here. They're really difficult to come by, but Barrel Pursuit guys did, or the Bourbon Pursuit guys did a pick of this. Oh no, did I freeze? Son of a gun. Let me turn the camera off.
Dude, I think all my tiers, I literally think all of my single barrels are tiers like 1 and 2. Maybe that's why we're getting more barrel picks in Wisconsin. Granted, I still love them, so I'm going to try not to be bitter, but they're like all 1 and 2.
This is a run. So hot, look at how that's almost 130 proof.
Yeah.
Wow. This is from JE32 tier 6. And then the this is a Bourbon Pursuit keg and bottle pick, OBSF. You see that? So it's 9 years, 6 months, OBSF. This is actually really cool. This is has a cool sticker of Al Young on it. Spicy Al, they call this one Spicy Al.
Weird.
So this is another fun run. It's very, we're talking about florals and lights and sweet. This one is like big and spicy. Not this bottle specifically. The run is generally like a heater. Like it's just good. It's hard to describe, but it's very different in profile. And then we were talking about this run of OESF. So this OESF run, some of the other ones I've tried in this run have given me, I don't know. I actually haven't been able to pinpoint its flavor profile specifically, but as you heard me talk about with this, it's got a oakier, mustier profile overall. There's another run of OESF that I have that is from the HW55 run, and those things are like smoky, almost like a Knob Creek.
Really?
It's this like smoky, funky, charry kind of run, and I was very big. It's one of the first runs that I went after, and kind of got me like, oh, some of these runs can give you just really unique flavor profiles. And maybe it's because Four Roses drinkers, if you just drink Four Roses, there's been phases where I drink Four Roses so much that I'm like, it all tastes the same. Doesn't matter the recipe, just tastes the same.
Johnny,
and I had to pause.
Sorry, I was going to say Johnny 5 asked this great question. It would be a distillation batch because it's all like produced and barreled and then rolled together. So yeah, it would be when they say run, it's generally
I would say
batch.
We're probably not using run the same way that it's used in other contexts.
It's not a 1-to-1. True.
Yeah. When we're talking about a run in Four Roses, it basically, and honestly, again, I could say a run and we would say, okay, PS 58, that's the run. It doesn't matter if it's tier 6, tier 5, whatever. We'd say PS 58s are special. However, you probably can finesse more. And like with this JE32, you know, a lot of the 6s were bangers. People were like, those are special. And then some people were like, oh, even some of the 4s and 5s were as good as the 6s. In the PS 58s, I don't think people are enjoying the tier 4s and 5s as much as the 6s. So that run would probably most exclusively be the bangers are in 6. Some of this is just inside baseball. You just kind of have to know or do some digging to try and figure it out.
Yeah, and if you live in Wisconsin, just get what you can.
With the MW 25s, I think that was kind of the same way. A lot of people say that the tier 6s were epic, and they fell off after that. I wouldn't know because I have one tier 5, and I have several tier 4s, and that MW25, and then I have this again. Here's the deal, guys.
Yeah,
I will say. So I just want to pause real quick.
Final remarks. We're getting close to 10. I got a hard stop at 10. So I'm gonna give you the floor for your like final thoughts, and then we'll open it up for questions as we wrap up.
I'm not gonna say final thoughts. I mean, I guess it's final thoughts. I was just gonna say, guys, I am at Abandoned Bourbon on Instagram. If you're on Instagram, it's my most used platform. Okay. If anyone has Four Roses questions, I'm always down to talk Four Roses. If you're on Instagram, follow me or at me at Abandoned Bourbon, just like you see on here, one word, and hit me up. And I'm happy to discuss whatever I have. Dude, okay. The one that has the most whorehound is it's the one I just opened, but it's downstairs. It's an OESF. It's an OESF. It came from Liquor Barn. It's RS24, I think. God, it's so weird. I'm having a hard time with that bottle, but I keep drinking it because I'm like, do I like it? Oh, it's so minty. It's so herbal. Yeah, send me a message on there. Again, I will say too, for anyone who missed it, my goal is to bring more Roses videos, at least monthly, to my channel on YouTube. I need suggestions because, again, I mentioned earlier, and I talked to Drew about it. Partially, I wanted to be like, it's only Roses content. It'll be difficult to support only Roses content. I'm literally going to have to open up every bottle that I have and like talk through them, and and then I'll be out of content. However, talk with me about what you want. Again, I'm not opposed to starting a new Squarespace site and blog it as 7th tier, like Dave Jennings does with Rarebird. I do already own a website domain. It's brianbikey.com. I keep a lot of photos there, and I do have a blog section, but I mainly use it to archive tasting notes of some barrel picks that I've been on. So I don't really want to muck it up, but like maybe I could do another blog section. I don't know. If you want Roses content, I want to be able to put it out there, but I want to do it in a way that will be helpful and not a way where I'm just talking and it's not beneficial to people. So whether that's videos, whether that's my Instagram, whether you were just chatting, let me know.
I hope we get to do a Four Roses pick one day.
I submitted something for a Rose pick and I got denied.
I know you did. I know.
Which is a bummer.
One day. We're 1 year into this thing.
I feel lucky. I'm in another group that was able to get 2 picks this year. So I don't know that I'm going to be able to go on either of those. I'm not really concerned about that. I'm just glad that I'll be able to get one.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm not in those groups, but it's fine. Johnny Five says start a MySpace group chat room. That's amazing. All right. Real quick, Eric says, don't forget about the LEs. Eric, I'm going to direct you at this time to our stream we did a year ago. So just search Drew P Whiskey, Four Roses, and you're going to get probably 3 or 4 videos pop up, and you'll be able to find which one was the live stream we did from my Airbnb where we talked about some of those. We tasted Al Young. I think 2021 wasn't out yet, but we did the 2020. I think we did the.
I'm pasting the link in the chat right now.
Thanks, Brian.
Now.
I'll direct you all there. We should answer one question real quick.
Brian Mackey, dude, it's really tricky with that. Those guys go so hard on Roses. I feel like they'll be like, you're just drinking all the new stuff, because they have a lot of the old picks. I'd love to have access to those. I just don't. So I don't know. Jason from Mash and Drum just got picked. How does a Mash and Drum get picked? He doesn't even like Four Roses. Whatever. That's fine.
Well, that's where I felt like we should end. It's not that he doesn't like Four Roses, but we talk about Four Roses a lot on this channel. We do. We don't. I mean, I've done a video. We've done a live stream, and now this is our second live stream. So 3 videos in a year. Yeah, about a year dedicated to Four Roses.
You're right,
that's a decent amount, and you've done at least 2 yourself. So I feel like we do it some justice here, but people will review the annual LEs, right? Mm-hmm. Mash and Drum, Bourbon Junkies. These guys are able to procure these bottles, taste them, give a review, Fred, but nobody else correct me if I'm wrong, Nation. Please drop in if you have seen other people do this, but I don't think anybody else has gone hard.
Cheers, Liberty.
On the single barrels.
Good to see you again.
On the single barrel dynamic yet. Or talked about sort of the glories of that world. And that's fine. Like no hate to any of those dudes, but one of the questions on what is the deal with Four Roses, maybe we'll wrap with this question. Maybe we wrap with this question is the reason people haven't done that, is it because it's too hipster? It's too heady, like it's too blow your brains out, kind of like this is just too much to keep track of? Is it not enough people care, which probably isn't true because we just had one of our bigger live streams over the course of the last 6 months talking about this topic? Or is it because the standard products on the shelf outside of the single barrel and single barrel select are kind of meh? Like, what's your take on that? Like, why do you think it's just not as big of a topic in the whiskey mediaverse? Especially when there's such like a devoted cult following. Like, we've established that there's a devoted cult level following to Four Roses.
I have to assume it's because the shelfer products aren't their best example, and it's difficult to come into what is the best. So, a good barrel select is what's going to probably change someone's mind or open their mind to Four Roses and give a lot of differential in flavor. But when they're now so difficult to acquire, and when they're already were difficult and priced high, I mean, someone's got to like want to like Four Roses to say, yeah, I'm going to spend $80 on this bottle. For a lot of people, that's asking a lot. So I think it's difficult to get into it unless you have gotten into it or someone has helped you get into it. Because again, like we talked about in the very beginning of the channel, the stuff that you're able to get into is not necessarily going to be what wins you over.
Sawyer is dropping in here real quick. He just did want to correct us, and this is worth correcting, is that Mash and Drum did apparently say 2021 Four Roses LE was his whiskey of the year.
Yeah, but if you go back to the
fair,
video
I really
too,
like Jason. Nice dude. He does a great job, so no hate.
And one thing I meant to talk about earlier in the show, which is accurate, he even says on it that no one talks about, he's like, this is my favorite bottle of the year. No one's talking about Four Roses. And I'm like, well, I mean, some people are, but he's not wrong. It's really the point of what this video was. Not a lot of people. I mean, the It's Bourbon Night folks really like the Four Roses too. I don't remember if it was their first or up there. A couple of people put it in there. Now, I would go and say that I know some Four Roses guys who said that the 2021 was one of their favorites in quite some time. As you saw from my video, I was not as big of a fan, which that's the most interesting thing to me. Like, if Jason C thought the 2021 Roses was his favorite, there's a lot of Four Roses products I feel like I could suggest that he try that I think would make him be like, well, dude, I'm all in. If the 2021 was his favorite of the year, I would have to assume that he would lose his ass over this Bevmo. But all palates are different, so like I can't make the assumption that that's exactly going to be true for every person, and I don't want to. I mean, it's good that people's palates are different, and I think it's good that Four Roses is getting the praise. We didn't even talk about the distillers. I know people mentioned Jim Rutledge. People have heard Jim Rutledge from some Seagrams.
Well, he's gone now.
Now he is gone. He was a former master distiller. Now he did his little other stuff. He helped out with Blue Run or whatever. And then Brent Elliott came in. They've got two guys who were just on it when it comes to being master distillers, I think. I mean, I like Brent Elliott's approach. It's complex and it's subtle. But anyway, another stream, I guess.
There's undoubtedly we can go for another 2 hours. I do want to thank Kimberly. Thank you. That's a huge super
Cheers,
chat.
Kimberly.
So
honestly, truly.
That's very generous. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed this. And yes, to Four Roses. This is actually Wild Turkey now, but I drank plenty of Four Roses. So thank you for that. That's awesome. Sick. We talked about small batch select a little bit earlier in the stream, right before we got into the single barrel. So right around the 9 o'clock. So like hour mark, if you want to go back and watch our thoughts on the small batch select. And then if y'all have ever any ideas or topics or requests for streams, hit us up. I mean, I got to shout out Tom Lynch wrench extraordinaire, OG fanboy, and good friend now. Like literally, not like friend of the pod. Tom's like, he's a good dude, good friend. Stoked to know him. I was, like I mentioned at the start of the stream, just like I'm sucking wind a little bit personally. And I said, guys, I think I said I'm devoid of inspiration. I need some help. Give me a topic. So I texted our little like thread, and Tom's like, how about Four Roses and how it doesn't seem to get the love? I'm like, that's an amazing topic. And Brian's a wealth of information on that. It's like where Brian got his whiskey doctorate degree. So, and clearly you all enjoyed it. A lot of people in the stream. So I appreciate you all tuning in. Appreciate Tom very much. Enjoyed it. And the whiskey was great tonight. So it was fun to have an excuse to pop a bottle, sip the 2020 LE, which it was very good. I like that one a lot.
Jason G wants us
to tonight, but
Jason G wants us to end talking about our upcoming.
Yeah, let's do that. I think we should do that. I mean, I did at the start. I mentioned that the Middle West pick is
the next one up
now. It will be available for Patreon tiers 8 and above for a day, then Cam at Drums and Drams, and then back to $3 tier. But this is coming, and there's only 100 bottles available. And then after that, we are leaving, and I did confirm this with Dancing Goat, our rye that we have toasting. It's not really changing much. We're in the winter months. We're going to give it summer. And they said, you guys can let it ride as long as you want. So that's what we're doing. We're going to let that sucker toast. We're going to try and get some oak on it. It was great, syrupy, lemon curd. But we want to try and get some oak and drive the sweetness a little bit deeper. So that's what we're doing there. And then we need to coordinate, because what's high on our list up to this point is Driftless Glen in Wisconsin and New Riff are very high on our lists. So we need to go ahead and schedule those.
Yet about the Driftless?
No, I've got the contact. I'll do it tomorrow. Text me tomorrow. Okay. I will do it tomorrow. I just need to do it. I also need to send out some Patreon gifts. I generally keep up with those. I'm a little behind right now, but if you guys are Patreon supporters, thank you. It's coming. Gifts are coming. So thank you for that. That's
and then we have, again too, we have a bunch of picks. So when Drew was in town, we did join.
Right, go ahead.
We joined Blake, and we have Blake's been super busy. I don't know if this is just the time of year where he's planned a bunch of picks to like get some of his stuff done. He's buying in bulk from all these places. But we were on picks with Blake, in Sealbox picked 12 barrels, and there are several of which Drew and I align on. We have yet to be able to pin Blake to see, are any of these going to be entry-proof picks, part entry-proof Sealbox picks like they were before. Not got clarity on that. But what we hope, at the very least, are the ones that we have aligned on, that we would say these would be entry-proof picks, that we can flag some of those to either give you early access to or to let you all know what they are. So when they go live, to pull the trigger to buy those, because some of them were complete bangers.
Yeah. And Blake did say that he said, you guys your name's already on them. I was like, are you putting our name on all these? Because I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, but we'll see it maybe, which is fine. Like, because he's done us some favors, but
yeah. And I also
we'll tell you guys which ones to look out for.
I also thought about getting little gold stickers that say Entry Proof Podcast Selects or something like that. So even if this case comes up, picks that we've been on, or Drew, like if you've done some that have, like go to a store locally that you've been on a pick on, or some that I have, that like if people wanted, maybe we could get some of these printed off, sell them, or give them out to people, whatever, and then they could have them to put them on those picks to differentiate. This is something that you or I like give the seal of approval for.
To that end, I was just on a pick at Dancing Goat again, where I went with a local country club. I was just invited because Matt Pletz, Swing Nation, friend of the show. That's his country club. That's where he's a member. And so they picked with my approval, I might add, port finished rye. It was very nice, very fruity and delicious. I got a tiny sample left, but they took 100. I've got a tiny sample left. They took 100 bottles, and there's 50 bottles left, 48 actually. And so I just have to decide where they're going to go. Like I either need to ping Blake, but there's a local store that's been really helpful to me, and I offered it to them, so they just need to tell me whether or not they want it. which is, it's easy to move through 48 bottles. So if it doesn't go through those guys, it will go to Blake, and that'll be another pick up for, Nation. It was very good. I enjoyed it a great deal.
And if anybody, if anybody is in West Palm Beach, Florida, I just helped with a pick of Yellowstone. That was pretty awesome. Surprisingly, that's going to be going to a store in West Palm Beach. I can give you the deets if you're in West Palm Beach to go snag that.
I want to go to West Palm Beach.
We can make a trip. We can make a Nathan appearance in West Palm Beach for the release of this Yellowstone.
Yeah. With
real quick, I know we've ran out of time, but I don't want to ignore this because it's been said twice. Vortex asking, with the Four Roses pedigree, namely Jim Rutledge, what are our thoughts on Cream of Kentucky, Blue Run, or Blue Note? I have very little experience with Cream of Kentucky. I honestly was like intrigued by it and then got scared off based on what a lot of folks were saying as soon as it released. Blue Run is all hype and marketing. They're doing a really good job of that. However, I personally, to my palate, have enjoyed the flavor of all the products I've tried. I've been most impressed. I mean, I like
it's not all hype and marketing. So it's a lot of hype and marketing.
It is, well, it is all hype and marketing. The price is, it is not priced what it should be for the juice. Yeah. I think everyone can say that it is overpriced. However, I do think that I wish I tried some of the single barrel 4-year bourbons that they just did in all those weird colors. That's where it really lost me. I thought that was kind of silly to just bust out all this color palette. However, the first straight bourbon that I tried, the 4-year stuff, dude, I really like that. And if Jim Rutledge helped to put that recipe in for them to get to 4-year, which is what I thought I gathered, I'm really looking forward to seeing how that ages, because it has it had a toast or caramelization to the sweetness that didn't taste like Four Roses, but it gave me it got me excited. I'm excited to hopefully see how that stuff continues to age. I hope I can continue to have access to trying that. I wouldn't say any of them are necessarily. Oh, and Blue Note, I've not had that many, but I know a lot of people who say,
is he involved? Some of is Rutledge involved in Blue Note?
I don't remember. And honestly, I thought they bought some. I thought the Blue Note 17. A lot of people are talking about is
it's
Dickel.
Big Dickel. Yeah.
So I feel like I've heard good things. I don't know that I've even tried any of that. So I'm sorry, I can't be super helpful. But to be honest, I am really curious to see where Blue Run goes. I find it difficult to know that if their young stuff is priced where it is. As it gets older, I feel like it would be really difficult to. But I'm really curious to try it like 9-10 years old.
All right. You're going to need to take a nap after this. Wow. I mean, you went.
Well, I mean, it is 11 o'clock my time. I go to bed when I'm done with the live stream.
It's a big nap. Nation, thanks for tuning in tonight. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully you found that educational, entertaining, and delicious. You never finished your beer. You should do that. I found it all of those things as well. So look forward to catching up with you all again next Thursday. Don't forget, Mondays, the Droopy Whiskey channel, new video drops. Tuesdays, the Abandoned Bourbon channel, new video drops. You want to support the hustle, get some dope swag, patreon.com/entryproofpodcast. Also where you get access to absolutely fire single barrel picks like this Middle West Spirits. Do you know another place where you can get a Middle West Spirits pick? No, you probably don't. So you should get this one if you can. I'm in sales. Not really, but I could be. Y'all, hope you have a good night. Brian, great stream. We'll see y'all later.
Absolutely. Cheers, everybody.
Catch you soon and keep it neat. I know. Oh, wait, I got to play the video. I wasn't even ready for this. It was a terrible.
Oh my gosh.
Sign up.
This is terrible.
You like